The spending habits of the American consumer is also important for U.S. automakers. I talked recently with General Motors CEO Dan Akerson and asked him if consumers are still in the mood to buy cars.
If you go back to the bottom of the economic crisis when consumer confidence was at decade-low levels, today consumer confidence is up. And in fact, the average rate of purchase of cars, automobiles, crossovers, and trucks in the U.S. in the 08-09 timeframe dropped down to 9 and 10 million units. It's currently at 15 to 15 and a half, which is indicative of, I think, greater confidence.
But Mr. Akerson, as you know very well, consumers are coping with a lot of issues. Skimpier paychecks, high prices at the pump, all that dysfunction in Washington. At what point, how much is too much before consumers just close up their wallets?
The dysfunction that you described, the inability to come to common ground and articulate a vision of how to proceed in our country, I think creates a certain degree of uncertainty that if it continues, if we have these every 60 to 90 day crises, I think that will erode confidence.
Well, dealing with what's going on in Washington is not much you can have control over, but looking at GM's own situation, I see that the market share has slipped a little bit in the U.S. What can you do about that?
To give you an idea, 70% of our four brands, 70% of the models this year will either be refreshed or brand new. And that's representative of the fourth year since bankruptcy and an investment on the order of $8 billion a year in new product development, and the launching of new models this year will completely revamp. We're going to go from having the oldest portfolio in the industry to having one of the freshest portfolios in the industry by the end of this year.
And we know that China is a massive market for General Motors. Is that where you see where most of your growth is going to come from? We
are the market share leader in China. But quite frankly, we're seeing similar growth patterns between both the U.S. and China, the two largest automotive markets in the world. And we have the greatest market share in both markets. So we're indexed into the right markets. We're also doing well in emerging markets like Brazil, Russia, and the Middle East. So it's not all gloom and doom. Our biggest challenges in Europe, as many of our competition are experiencing the same difficulties we are.
A little closer to home, we know that Detroit is going through a financial emergency. What impact is that having on General Motors, and is there anything that you guys can do to fix it?
Well, we try to be a good corporate citizen, but in a perverse sort of way, I think what's happening in Detroit is kind of inevitable, and it's almost healthy, as difficult as it will be, not dissimilar to what General Motors and Chrysler had to go through. The city needs to restructure in order to kind of hit the reset button. And I think the political leadership with Dave Bing, who I think is a great mayor, understands the challenges and are addressing the issues.
Akerson spoke to us from an energy conference in Houston, and he says he expects GM to have 500,000 electric-type vehicles, cars and trucks on the road by 2017.